Sarah Spain, Kevin Blackistone, Frank Isola, and the return of Mr. Bob Ryan. Look at Bob. You look so stout and good. Great to have you back, Bob. Game 2, Lakers Heat. Game 3, we got a toss-up between the Pods and Cards. And Mahomes versus Cam. Let's go. Goran Dragic, doubtful. Bam Adebayo, doubtful as of our tape time. And the wonder is Game 2 already too much for Miami to overcome? Jimmy Butler also had that ankle sprain. He'd gnaw off his own appendage to play. And he's forging ahead here with some confidence. He took it all in, the injuries and the loss in Game 1, and said to himself, Bob Ryan, around the horn to you. What position is Miami in tonight, and what position are the Lakers in Game 2?
Miami's in a precarious position, to say the least. Obviously, they would be even if they didn't have this injury situation. Now, with regard to the Dragic thing, Kendrick Nunn is back. Apparently, he is back based on what we saw, and that's important because he was the starter. He was the guy who was on the all-rookie team. He's the guy that had a 36-point game this year, and Dragic was his caddy. So maybe he's got something to offer there that'll help in that position. And the other one, the next man up, well, Kelly Olynyk is certainly no Bam Adebayo, and he's certainly no Anthony Davis, but he is a guy who once had a 26-point playoff game coming off the bench for the Celtics, and he could fool you. Crazier things that happen. He might have something in him. And then you got those touchdown twins shooting jump shots, Robinson and Hero. Maybe they've each got 5 or 6 threes.
Okay.
A lot of maybes here.
Wow.
A lot of maybes here, but they got a shot.
That's Miami's position. Okay, they got a shot. Frank Isola, do you see it that way?
Well, Bob hasn't missed a beat, that's for sure. He's right, though, about, Kendrick Nunn and also what they might do off the bench with Kelly Olynyk. Don't forget about Myers Leonard as well. But this is last chance saloon time for the Miami Heat. You lose this game, now you're being asked to win 4 to 5 games against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Good luck with that. Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, they've been through this before, and Pat Riley has a saying, make them feel you. I think tonight you're going to see a much more physical Miami Heat team. They're going to make it tough for the Lakers as much as they can. No layups, no dunks. The whole thing will be in effect tonight.
Kevin Blackistone?
Well, they are at the precipice of their season, and this is where I thought that they would be at the beginning of this series. As much as I love this Heat team, the combination of youth, the combination of grit, they just don't have a combination that can beat the Lakers. And now you're talking about being without their starting guard in the bubble. It's great that Kendrick Nunn is back, and it's great that he looked good. But at the time he looked good in Game 1, the Lakers had taken their foot off the pedal. And so now he's got to start, he's got to adjust, and I'm sure that they'll be adjusted to him. And they still just don't have an answer for Anthony Davis. I mean, this guy came into the playoffs averaging 30 points a game despite his failures when he was with another franchise, and he's still just unstoppable. What do you do with him? Can they get physical with him? Good luck with that, because you bring in Dwight Howard to bang around Bam Adebayo, who's got a bad shoulder, and he may get hurt even more. So I just don't see any answers coming from the Heat.
And Sarah Spain.
I think it's easy to not see any answers for the Heat. I think it's easy to say you are either lost or you have injured the leading scorer from each of the series previous to this one in this bubble, right? It's your top players. It's the ones that you go to. And when you take them out, sure, they've got some really impressive scorers like Hero or Robinson that might show up, but that's facilitated by the other guys being on the court and drawing attention. Right. If they are gone, everyone can turn their focus to those guys. I will say, just to keep things interesting, the Heat have lost Game 1 of every championship series they've ever won. And this is the bubble. We've seen unprecedented comebacks both within series and within games. Double-digit leads erased, the likes of which we don't normally see outside of the bubble because there's no home court advantage, because the sight lines are great if a guy gets hot shooting. So I would cling to those things if I were the Heat, and to Frank's point, get real physical and make them work for everything and see if they want it bad in Game 2 when they might rest on their laurels after a big Game 1.
Frank, you want to add something?
It's interesting. Despite what Kyrie Irving says, LeBron James is still a pretty good player. And there are going to be moments in these series where he's going to have a signature game. He was 1 assist shy of a triple-double in the first game, and we're not even really talking about him that much. That's what makes it so hard. When the other team has the best 2 players, it's that much harder to win. Good luck to Miami.
When we started this series, I asked a question. Jackie Mack, I remember answering it, and maybe it was Plashke and Showdown. It was, of the top 10 players, how many are Lakers and how many are Heat? and everybody had 1-2 Lakers, and then everybody had 3-10 Miami. But now you're just taking away for the second finals in a row. Injuries really changing the whole complexion of the series. Frank, you called it a must-win for Miami tonight. Will they win?
No, I think the Lakers
Bob
will
Ryan?
find a way to win this game as well.
I wish that I could say yes, but I can't.
Blackistone?
No.
Sarah Spain, you have a whole fan base in Miami who's ready to rally for you if you just say the words Heat.
Lakers.
Okay, way to really get excited for a finals game tonight. We'll move on. Speaking of excitement, Broncos, Jets, Thursday Night Football. Denver 37, New York 28. You guys can get to Rippin versus Darnold and Adam Gase's Cedo region in a second. How this game ended, how a Greg Williams coordinated defense for New York had 6 personal fouls, and late in the game had 3 roughing the passers, 2 unnecessary roughnesses, and 1 face mask. No handshake after the game. Vic Fangio's team walked off the field. Ex-players, Steve Smith today on the NFL Network ripping Greg Williams. Frank Isola, what happened here? Did this devolve into unsportsmanlike play from the Jets? And how much connects to Greg Williams?
You know, it's the very definition of losing ugly. And for the New York Jets, a team that right now is 0-4, and that kind of conduct at the end of the game, there's one thing, inside the lines, the players know the risk they're taking when you play football. But those cheap shots, there's no place for that in the NFL. And look at Greg Williams. Look at the history. He was there for Bountygate. Look at what his team did to, when he was with New Orleans, what they did to Brett Favre in the NFC Championship game. He should be called on the carpet by the league office and spoken to.
What are you saying? A public reprimand, a fine? I mean, we're hearing about coaches being fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for masks.
Yeah, well, it's going to be hard to prove that he was telling guys to hit the quarterback late. They were trying to unsettle a rookie quarterback starting his first ever game. But it's something that the league should say, listen, you're on our radar because of what you did in the past. Just know that we're watching.
Sarah Spain?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult in a sport that's predicated on violence to figure out where that line is. But the fact that so many times Greg Williams' name has been associated with crossing that line in a way that's disrespectful to your opponents, in a way that makes it so football players don't want to take the field against him, fearing that extracurriculars might cost them their season or longer than that. Then you add in the field. That's been a problem all season long, and this is just a tough look altogether. I don't blame them for running off. I would say that if I'm Fangio, I'm fine with kind of telling everyone, let's get out of here. Yeah. But if individual players wanted to go shake hands with someone on the opposing team, a friend, a former teammate, I wouldn't be down with him pulling them away from that show of support if they felt like they wanted to express that sportsmanship. But overall, I have nothing against it when this many people are looking at Williams and saying the same thing.
Kevin Blackistone?
No, we know that we are all in a public health crisis right now, but within the NFL, what you saw last night, if that is not checked, that is a career health crisis. And that's why you can't, you can in no way endorse that. You have to penalize it. You have to call some people in on the carpet and say, no more. As Frank alluded, there is a code in the NFL. This is a brotherhood, and they know what line not to cross. We saw a guy get called out with the Cowboys the other week for a tackle that's called the Gator roll, which you could have taken a guy's knee out. So you can't do these kinds of things, and we cannot allow football players to police themselves. We have to have the NFL front office do the policing for them.
My question is, Bob, Greg Williams was involved with Bountygate. There is history here. Does the NFL have to view this differently?
When you're a Jet all the way from your first late hit till your last broken play.
West Side Story. Oh, Bobby, it's great to have you back.
Greg Williams is a recidivist. We know that. At the very least, I don't know what kind of punishment can be enacted with suspension or fine or anything, but he should be called into the principal's office on Park Avenue, and also should Adam Gase. This is unacceptable. What a joke. In the way they're going, and to have 11 penalties, 6 personal fouls, it's a disgrace. I mean, if I'm Johnson, the owner, I'm calling him into my office too. You're embarrassing us. I mean, I know it's probably redundant, but this is really embarrassing.
Really, it does take some work to embarrass the Jets with the season they're having. The thing is, you guys have covered the game combined, 80, 100 years. I can't even do the math right now. And we all have eyes watching it at home. But when you hear former players or current players like Steve Smith on the NFL Network today call it out immediately, they know what this is. Yeah. They see it. He says if it smells like a pig and looks like a pig and oinks, it's a pig. That was Steve Smith today on the NFL Network. We'll move on. One more story I want your take on here. The 10 best words in the English language. Game 3 in the first round of the new baseball format. Padres, man, this is a fun team. They partied all over the Cardinals last night in a great game. Tatis's bat flip was gymnastic. So tonight, the deciding game, Jack Flaherty for St. Louis, San Diego, Jace Tinger. He says, I have no idea. We have no idea who's starting the game for San Diego as of our tape time. Sarah, do you think all the joy and swagger San Diego had last night has any carryover to tonight's win or go home game?
That's the reason I would say probably not. They have a ton of firepower, and we know those guys' bats can get hot, and the bat flips and the excitement and the passion can come through. But when the manager is saying, we don't know who we're starting, when you look at that revolving saloon door of the bullpen and you wonder if the other team gets hot at any point, how do you stop them? That's the problem. If they can get far enough to bring Mike Clevenger and Dinelson Lamet back and they have a little bit more options to go with, then sure, I could see this Padres team making a run. But first they got to get past this and allow those guys to get healthy because they're running out of arms to make up for anything that their bats might have.
That was the second reference to a saloon in this show already. 8 minutes. What are you guys watching Back to the Future 3? Can I get you a sarsaparilla, Bob Ryan? You want a sarsaparilla there?
Well, all I know is I'd like to see them keep playing. And I want to see them keep doing this, of course. And I got a suggestion from Mr. Tatis, is that the next time you do that, don't flip the bat right away, but do a little air guitar down at first base.
Oh, I wasn't sure where this was going. I thought the unwritten rules might be invoked here, Bob, but no. So
I'm trying to give him a little help here.
Yes, but even as someone who has covered the game and loves the game, going back as long, we've heard. I mean, this was a story this season, Bob. The Tatis hitting the grand slam against Texas, and everybody got the vapors over it, but you're fine with the way they reacted here last night.
I've given up on the whole idea of worrying about baseball etiquette, all right? And let the kid go. He's tremendous.
But I don't have a problem with it. I think, listen, if you're the opposing team and you have an issue with it, we know that baseball players like to, met out the justice right there on the field, so that's a possibility. But in terms of winning this game, what is the history of the Padres? Like, let's go back to to the '98 World Series. Mark Langston, bases loaded.
Oh, would you stop?
What about when they brought Trevor
what does it have
Hoffman
to do?
That's their history.
Fernando Tatis wasn't even alive, or was just barely alive for that. Get out of here. Kevin Blackistone, last word here.
I love joy in Mudville. I love people expressing themselves. I love what Tatis did. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I'd like to see more of it. Can they get by this series? Can they escape? Sure they can. It's all arms on deck, and they are playing with that fun momentum. Absolutely.
Bob Ryan, 17 points in the lead. Little boy, you're a man. Little man, you're a king. West Side Story, right? I'm still with you, Bob. We watched that. Francesca loves West Side Story. Coming up, Kansas City versus New England, Mahomes versus Cam. Let's go. Whoever made up the football schedule, bravo. Minus last night's game. But Patriots-Chiefs Sunday, coming off Chiefs-Baltimore last week and how they dismantled the Ravens. And now Belichick gets his shot at Mahomes. Cam taking it all in last week. Maybe this is what he was thinking about. Oh, yeah, we got Kansas City next week. What to buy as the one thing that will decide KC New England. Let's start in New England, Bob.
In the Patrick Mahomes era, the Kansas City Chiefs are 1-5 in games in which they have had 25 minutes of time for possession or less.
Ooh,
so the obvious answer is run the football and keep him on the bench.
I have all the algorithms behind you. I guess I should have just shown like a grandfather clock because you're talking about time. But yeah, it's very good. Frank Isola, how about you?
Yeah, Bob's right. Also on fourth down, just don't give the guy the ball back because at this point, the way that he plays, you're going to be shocked if Kansas City ever loses. That's how.
So no punts at all for Belichick? Is that your plan here?
Well, it depends. Depends on where you. Maybe from my own 10-yard line. Otherwise, I'm going.
Yeah, I'm with you there. How about you, Blackistone?
Well, the other thing they have to do is they can't allow any chunk plays to Mahomes, particularly through the air. And unfortunately, the Patriots have been allowing passes downfield in their first 3 games. So they got to tighten up that backside in order to stay in this.
Tighten up the backside. It's good advice for everybody. And how about you, Sarah Spade?
Well, people keep saying his name, Mahomes. Say it loud and there's music playing. Say it soft and it's almost like praying.
Yes.
It's all about Mahomes. Can you take him out of it, whether by time of possession or by giving him defensive looks he's not expecting? It almost worked for the Chargers. Can Belichick and that brain trust in New England do enough to take him out of it? Probably not, but it'll be fun to watch.
That's Patrick Mahomes to you guys. That's what Mama says. Buy or sell too, Clayton Kershaw. 8 innings, 3 hits, 13 strikeouts, an uncut gem, and this is how the Dodgers win and move on. Kershaw's postseason history and the Dodgers avoiding the fickle randomness of a best-of-3 series. What does it mean, Frank?
Well, he plays in L.A., so it's still going to come down to, do they win a World Series? How does he pitch in a World Series? Remember this, though. He's 10-11 lifetime in the postseason, and really his last bad outing was when he came in as a reliever against the Washington Nationals. Keep him as a starter. Don't bring him in late
KB?
as a reliever.
Yeah, people forget that the guy we're looking at in Kershaw in the postseason has thrown more innings than just about anybody in the history of baseball in the postseason. And a lot of those have been good. A lot of those have been some tough situations. So I think people need to back off and just remember he's a great pitcher and he's doing well right now in the postseason.
Yeah, great regular season pitcher who needs to change the way people see him as a postseason pitcher. So he can feel pretty and witty and bright, but he's got to wake up tomorrow and feel pretty again for people to change their minds. I would love for this to happen, though, for Kershaw, for you, for anyone that was involved in the Astros cheating. I want them to change the way people think of them because I want it to be about that so they can find their success after.
Unleash a monster. It's in Chicago. And how about you, Bob Ryan?
Well, you know what he said before last night's game, don't you? He said, tonight.
Okay, this is
night.
There you go.
So, and then he went out and proved it. Look, I said from the beginning, and he's going to carry them. They're going to be having a parade in downtown or somewhere in L.A. It's the Los Angeles Dodger Invitational, and he's going to be the leader. That's it.
Buy or sell 3, Doc Rivers and the Sixers. It's a 5-year deal. And Bob, I want to start with you here because you know Doc better than anyone on this panel. What should the expectations in these 5 years be?
Well, they're looking, of course, to advance a little farther than the second round. But what I would do is I would lock Ben Simmons in a gym for 4 hours a day between now and opening day and put him in the custody of a jump shooter and teach him how to shoot jump shots, three-point shots. Because if he doesn't do that, it's never going to happen.
Dara Spain?
It's simple, but it's obvious, right? Look at everything that came before I arrived, erase your minds of it, and we start fresh here, whether that's interpersonal dynamics, whether that's yips you have over a shot you're supposed to take, whether that's how you see yourselves as contenders, because otherwise it's going to come up against that same wall he hit with the Clippers.
Blackstone?
Yeah, he's got to develop a leader out of Ben Simmons, and part of that starts with being a complete point guard. As Bob just said, get in the gym, shoot jumpers, 2 for 24 from three-point line. No, that's got to end. It's got to end. Not in the 2020 NBA anymore.
Doc Rivers is considered a great leader of men. What he needs to do is get Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on the same page. To win in the NBA, you need 2 stars. These 2 guys haven't gotten along. That'll be a big part of the job early on for Doc Rivers.
Oh, look at these scores. Spain, a furious comeback to get back there. Not enough, and Officer Krupke, Frank Isola. What are we going to snap them off, right?
Easy does it. Crazy boy.
All right, you're done.
Boy.
Bob Ryan, Kevin Blackstone, showdown. Just like they used to do it back in 2002. Next. The 33rd career matchup between Bob Ryan and Kevin Blackstone. I would have said more, 50 or so. And it's 21-11 Ryan. So, Stone, let's see if we can pick that up in showdown. College. Auburn, Georgia Saturday, and A&M, Alabama. 2 games between ranked teams on the schedule this week. Kevin, I think this year is a year where they're all elimination games. Do you believe that? And who you got this weekend?
Yeah, of course I believe that. You know, you get 10 games on the schedule, so you don't have time to make up if you lose one early. You always got to like Alabama. And I still like Alabama. Never going to go against Saban.
I'm going with Alabama. I'll go with Auburn in the games, but I don't care in terms of this playoff. I don't think there should be a playoff this year. It's just ridiculous. But it shouldn't be an elimination game either in this season where we do not know how it's going to materialize, what games will be played or not played. I'm not going to extend any diplomatic recognition to any champion.
Multiple hot takes from Bob Ryan there. Take 3 points. We'll move on. Aces Storm. Game 1 tonight. There's the 1 seed versus the 2 seed. The finals we need and deserve. Bob, who's got the advantage going in?
I'm a big fan, always have been, of the 40-year-old Sue Bird, but the key is Brianna Stewart because she missed all of last year. She's on a mission. She's playing great, averaging 23 in the last series coming in. Storm's surge.
Yeah, I would like to say the Aces, but it's their first time getting this far, and unless you count the franchise when they were back in San Antonio. And the other problem for them is their bench was so good, but now they're missing Hamby. She's out with an injury. She was a 6th Woman of the Year award winner, so they're a little bit shorthanded. You got to go with the Storm.
Both agree. And Brianna Stewart, how great is it to see her fully healthy and getting this year back? We missed her last year. Points and game and FaceTime to Mr. Bob Ryan. We've waited since March 6th for this, Bob. Congrats.
I love baseball. I've said it a million times, but I'm very worried about baseball. There were 4 games yesterday, 4 games, none of which went into extra innings. 47 pitchers were used. Only 3 of them went beyond the 5th inning, and only 1 went beyond the 7th. Clayton Kershaw. This is just beyond. Also, 2 of the games went 4 hours, and the average time of game was 3:50 among those 4 games. This is horrible. Or as my good friend Bill Walton would say, horrible.
Okay. One of the things I've loved to pass the time during all this sheltering in, Bob, you've been going through the 1977 scorebook you had of the Red Sox, and every time of game was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. We'll